Happy Monday. You know what today is? Monday Morning Chats with Sack. Sack is me. I hope that you guys had a good weekend. Please excuse my hair. I have to get my hair done. I was traveling early this morning, so it feels good to be back. I was in Dallas for a few days to visit family, and I got a chance to see one of my favorite little people, Baby K, aka Kirsten. That is my niece. So you see me post like a little baby on my timeline, whether it's on my post or my story. Light skin little girl, it's my niece, and she's like everything to me. So I got a chance to spend time with her. Got a chance to have some good food that I typically don't eat, but definitely made it, definitely allowed myself to, cut my diet and eat something unhealthy. But it was good, and I got a chance to go to Whataburgers, which is one of like my favorite fast food restaurants. I don't even do fast food, but that was my first job, Whataburger. So if you don't know what Whataburger is, you should look it up. I think they have one outside of Atlanta, but it's pretty much in Florida, Texas, and pretty much stays off the Gulf Coast. So I enjoyed my weekend. I had a good weekend, and I feel so bad because June is full of events. So like, the next 2 weeks I'll be out of town for the weekend, but it's cool because that's the life that I wanted, so I'm living it. So that's always good. But this past week, it was good. I got a chance to go to this restaurant called Sticky Fingers. It's a vegan spot in DC, and I've tried many vegan burgers. By far, this was probably like the best one that I had. So it was really good. I got a chance to go to, I'm always trying new restaurants. I got a chance to go to the food market in Columbia. Food was okay. It was okay. I went to Mount Tavern. I already been there before, but it was cool to go back again. But overall, I had some really good conversations with folks and just like really talking about things in general. But this past week was full of putting out fires, and I wanted to figure out how to address this, and hopefully it may help somebody. So if I had to label this, it would be pretty much putting out fires in an effective way. Putting out fires in an effective way. So beginning of this year, the spring semester starts from January to April. And throughout the semester, I'm a big advocate of mental health. And I tell my students that, and I tell my students like, hey, I am pro therapy. I think everyone should experience therapy. Even if you think something is not wrong, I can guarantee you that working with a therapist, you're able to figure out underlying things that may affect you that you didn't even know affected you. So I'm a big advocate of therapy, and I go to therapy too. So as a teacher, I am mindful of my students' feelings, and I'm mindful of how I say things. And I'm the same way with my family, friends, colleagues. But what I've noticed that with my students is that I give them a grade. So sometimes they are mindful what they say to me. But what I have done, I tell my students that I want you to be honest with me, and this will not affect your grade. I don't believe in disrespect because I'm not going to disrespect you. But if you feel like I said something, let's say we're going over something and I'm trying to correct you. If you think I said something that offended you, I need you to tell me. And I'll let them know, hey, this is a safe space. So I'm going to explain one experience that I had. So I had one student that on my way to work, and my students have my cell phone number. So on my way to work, I'm driving. My students asked me a question about a case because I am a director of a tax clinic. And the students asked me a case, and I was like, listen, the one thing about tax you have to understand is that tax is very complicated. That's something I tell my students the moment that they walk through the door. Tax is complicated. You have to figure out, eventually you'll learn how it works, but it can take some time. It's complicated. And I said, tax is equivalent to using a different side of your brain, right? There's like people that are good at writing and there's people that are good at math. I said, tax is somewhat similar. That statement that I said offended a student. And we had an event, and after the event, the student said, hey, I would like to talk to you, professor. I said, okay, sure. And these conversations, of course, you want to have them in person because, I was a communication studies minor in college. So I was taught how to pay attention to nonverbal communication and also verbal, and watching people's like body gestures and things of that sort, and just creating a space to letting them talk. But then I also, from my experience dealing with people in different jobs that I had, and also being emotionally intelligent, right? And taking an assessment. Like I made my students take an assessment. I also took an assessment and went over my results with my students. And my student was like, "Professor, that makes sense." But in this conversation, the student was nervous to express their self. And I said, "Hey, we were in the same room." And I said, "Hey, if you want me to turn my back," because I like to look people face to face. That's how I was raised. Like, look people straight face to face, look them in their eye. That's how people know. For me, that's how I'm letting you know that you have my full undivided attention, and I'm listening to you. And I want you to express how you feel. I was like, just let it all out. And she was like, "No, you don't have to look the other way." But she looked the other way. And while she was talking to me, she shared with me how she felt, and she let me know how the statement made her feel. And I listened to her. I did not interrupt. And, she's crying, and I was like, okay. I'm just watching the temperament of her, watching her body language. And I said, "Hey," after she was done talking, I said, "Hey, is it okay if I give you a hug?" Right? Church hug, whatever. And I said, I like looking people face to face, but I said, if that's not what you're comfortable with, I'll just talk to you. You could look whatever way, wherever feel comfortable to you. And I said, what I've heard is that statement made you feel a certain way, right? The statement that I said made you feel some type of way. And I said that you are entitled to feel that way, right? You are entitled. Something I said struck a nerve. You are entitled to feel exactly how you feel. And I said, I apologize that my statement made you feel some type of way. Here's what my intentions were with saying it. It was just trying to make an analogy about how to approach this complex subject. And I said, thank you for sharing that with me, because now it's going to make me be mindful of the statements that I say when it comes to explaining the complexity of text. And, the tears, it was like, kept hearing like the sniffles stopped and the tears drying up. And, we talked some more. But I remember after the conversation, the student said, "Thank you, Professor, because I felt seen." And this student gave me a thank you card at the end of the semester. It was like, "You made me feel seen. I felt heard. You are patient, and I appreciate that." And that was with a student, right? And I tell my students all the time, "Hey, tell me what you want to say." I said, "This does not affect your grade, but I just need to know." Even when I'm, doing some type of whatever I have on my agenda to teach, and for students, if there's multiple students that feel like they're confused, I'll pivot and I'll be like, "Okay, well, let's stop here. You guys are overwhelmed. We're going to stop. Let's go back." Or I'll tell them, "Hey, you need a break." I'll end class and say, "We'll pick back up tomorrow," or whatever day that we may have class. That's one example. I've learned that, and I had this conversation with my brother, that I'm mindful and I respect when people tell me how they perceive me, especially those that I love, right? If I love you and I care for you, if I made you feel some type of way, I want to know, right? Even if it's bad, right? Even if it's bad, tell me, because that's how I'm able to correct it. At one point in my life, I did not know how to handle like uneasy conversations or difficult conversations, because it was just a matter of, is this person attacking me? And all I saw was red, right? College, early teens, like all I see is red. But for me, it's just a matter of, okay, well, is there some truth to this? Or maybe it's their truth. And can I empathize? Because no one doesn't want to hear when someone's telling you that's something wrong. Everyone likes to hear. It's easy to hear when someone is, acknowledging and giving you praise. But when someone is like telling you where you may fall short at, sometimes that can be hard to really swallow, right? To really swallow. But it's just a matter of perspective, right? Is this person telling you something because it's how they receive, or they're just trying to nitpick or try to put you down? If you feel like they're putting you down, just say, hey, or maybe you don't care about their opinion. For people's opinion that I don't care about, that's because I don't care about them. That's just like someone that's on social media that only sees me for videos that I post or memes that I post and have this perception of who I am. Let's say it's negative. I don't give two shits about that, right? But the people that I care about, yes, I want to know, how did this make you feel? Can you tell me? It's those things where you don't say something and things just like bottle up. It's just like on top. It just keep coming and coming and coming. It's like, okay, well, I don't know. Again, putting out fires is, I think it's equivalent to putting them out with love for the people that you truly do care about. And be mindful of the words that you use. Be mindful of how you say it, because tone is super important. But also being assertive. So I read something like, I read a lot about different articles as it relates to communication. What I have found that I am an assertive communicator. What I have found is that those that can't receive assertive communication is for some, not all, is people that always want to be right, that never want to be wrong. For the most part, not always, but from what I have read is that those are the people that are unable to receive it because they always want to be right. When it's someone that I care about, I don't care about being wrong. That's not the end goal. The end goal is, can we be on the same page? That is me. End goal. Other fires, work, right? They're my colleagues. Some of them we start off as colleagues, have a friendship. Some of us, we're just colleagues. We just work together. We give each other assignments, do the job, and that's it. And I had a conversation with one of my colleagues. It was just some admin stuff. I'm like, hey, I just need to know. Like, if I'm writing you an email, I'm just like, hey, I want to know X, Y, and Z. Can you explain this to me? Because I'm unsure. If I'm unsure about something, I need someone to clear it out. I need someone to be very detailed and explain what you mean by this, because I can't assume, and I don't want to assume, because when you assume, you make an ass out of yourself. And so it was communication back and forth, emails. And I just remember reaching out to someone saying, hey, I sent emails, and, the purpose of my email was to really get clarity, because I am not sure. And I was like, my purpose, I was like, I'm not sure how you took the email, but if it offended you, I apologize. That was never my intention. I've noticed that for me, when it comes to listening to someone about how they may receive me, how I make them feel seen is by really addressing the action that they acknowledge, right? If they said that, hey, you made me feel like I was dumb, right? Or you made me feel like I didn't matter. I want to address that. And I'm not going to just say, hey, I apologize. I'm going to address the exact thing so they know that, hey, I identified to what you actually said, and let me address that. And when I address it, I'll say, hey, you said this is how it made you feel. Hey, your feelings are valued. I value your feelings. Your feelings do matter. And I want to explain something. This doesn't take away, but this was my intentions when I did this. However, I did not know that it will make you feel X, Y, and Z. And I apologize about that. Because I think when you do that, when you acknowledge the action that you took, it makes a person realize that you really pay attention to what they said. Like, oh, you actually identified the exact same thing that I was talking about, and you explain why you did it. I was telling someone this past week that everyone talks about the love languages, right? There's 5 love languages. There it is: quality time, acts of service, words of affirmation, physical touch, and gifts. But what some people don't know is that there is a test for how you apologize. It's by the same author that wrote the 5 love languages, but there's also a test to see how you receive apologies. Me, if someone says I'm sorry and you should never felt that way, I can't accept it. If someone apologizes and say, hey, I apologize, and they acknowledge what they're apologizing for, and then explain, hey, that was not my intentions. My intentions were this. That makes me feel seen, and that makes me feel like I was understood. Like someone was able to empathize. If you just say, hey, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, for me, it just won't cut it. But yeah, just putting out fires, job, having a conversation with someone and really listening to what they had to say. And I think that for me is really important, right? Really important to have those difficult conversations, because to be honest, sometimes people avoid those, right? People avoid those. And I always think about the things that are left unsaid, right? Think about things that you want to tell people, but you never tell them. And then you tell them when it's just like all these emotions that just builds up. And the question becomes, hey, why didn't you put out the fire before? I've learned that for me to put out a fire, if someone pisses me off, my old initial reaction, right, before I got rededicated is to beat the person up, right? That's the old me, right? Long time ago. But for me, if someone pisses me off, I'll talk to God first, right? Talk to God first, like, God, I don't know what to say to this person, but I need you, right? I need you, because I can't do this by myself. And I don't like to use profanity, like really expressing like my feelings and emotions, because now it's just like you're like really talking at a person instead of talking to them. And I've learned to talk to God first, right? And I think that really changed my responses. So when I'm like heated, and I'm a happy person, but happy people, they get upset too. But what I found is that I don't really go, put out the fire right away. I had to like sit, process everything. Like, hey, does this make sense? Or, hey, is it really worth me feeling this way, right? Is it really worth me having a conversation? Or if I have a conversation, what would that look like? What would I say? Are my thoughts loving? Because, it's power in the tongue. And there's a Bible verse that talks about that, right? There's so much power in the tongue. So I'm mindful of what I say. But at the same time, I don't know how to be fake. I don't know how to be passive. I don't know how to be that. I don't know how to talk in circles. I like to be direct. And that's very effective. So if we have a conversation and I'm putting out a fire, let's say we may not like what each other are saying, but that I said everything I needed to say. You wasn't unsure. You knew exactly what I needed to say. And I think that's important, right? That's super important. And yes, when you're putting out fires, somebody's feelings may get hurt, but you have to ask yourself, okay, was that really your intentions, right? Was that really your intentions to hurt somebody? Did you say things in a loving way? And if so, that's the only thing. You can't control how people will receive your message. You can only ask God to give you the strength to have these conversations. And then after that, there's nothing else you can do. You can't cry, or you can't contemplate, or you can't think so much about things that you can't control. Like that is out of my control. I just remember I had a colleague that got mad because I corrected her on my name. I'm like, well, my name is pronounced like this. Told one of my colleagues about it. And I said, well, she's mad at me, but never addressed me. And she didn't tell you why she was mad at me. And I said, well, it appears that she doesn't have a problem with me. She didn't approach me. So yeah, lighting out fires is not the most prettiest thing, right? But it's just a matter of, did you go in it with a kind heart? If someone is nasty to me and they're yelling at me, especially if we're like on the phone or face to face, I will remove myself. I'll say, hey, thank you, because you're going to bring me back to a place that I don't want to go, and nobody's not going to like it, including you. But you have to know yourself. What I have also found is that reading and listening to Brené Brown, and if you guys don't know anything about Brené Brown, she is amazing. I even use some of her material in my class, and I'm actually going to implement more stuff in my class. And when I think about communication and how people communicate, it makes me think about their childhood, right? And Brené Brown had this TED Talk. It's like 20 minutes long. It's something that you can listen to while you're on your way to work, or while you're on the way to a meeting or whatever, or like a lunch break. But when she talked about the power of vulnerability, a lot of times people think vulnerability has to do with romantic relationships. It doesn't. That's just one facet of it. But when people lack the vulnerability, most times it has to deal with shame. Are they, in the way Brené Brown described it, are they ashamed? Do they feel like they're not worthy of connections? That could be with friends. It could be with family members. It could be romantic partner. It could be whatever. Like, are you fearful? But then it also makes me think about communication, right? When you are afraid to express how you feel, it makes me think how you were raised. It makes me think, how was communication in your household? Did you feel like every time that you said something, you didn't matter, right? Who taught you to speak up for yourself, right? What did that look like? What did the communication look like in your household? Because most times, if it's not, if you don't really address it as a child, it's going to show up in your adulthood, right? So one thing I told my first therapist is that I don't like when people yell. I hate it. And I remember in Bible study, this is before I became a facilitator, I was like, yeah, I don't like when people yell at me. I like shut down. And my girlfriend in my Bible study, she was like, well, if you still shut down, you didn't get over it. And that was just like, damn, I felt like a slap, but I needed to hear that. And I was like, she said, think about it. If it still trigger you and it still bother you, you didn't heal from it. And for this therapist that I have, I was able to identify and say, you know what? I can tell you why I don't like yelling. My mom yells, right? That's what she did growing up. She yelled. But the thing that I really appreciated about my mom growing up, and I don't know if my friends ever had this, but my mom was a type where, yes, she would yell to get her point across. But what she did that I would do when I had my own children is to really allow the kids to express how they feel. Like, I remember being teased as a kid, and I just remember I would ask my mom, I was like 5 or 6 years old, and I would say to my mom, hey, like, this person teased me. And how I thought to get back at the person was to get smart back, but to use profanity. And I would ask my mother, so it's equivalent to Kevin Hart. I forgot what stand-up it was, but he was pretty much saying that my mom told me, gave me permission to use one curse word. That's how my mom was. She gave me permission to express my hurt. Right? She gave me permission to do that. And that's the one thing that I really appreciate. And I'll tell her, like, Mom, this person hurt my feelings. And can I say, and the curse words did not make sense at all. But for me, that was just another way to communicate with someone that hurt my feelings. And that really set the tone for me as an adult. Now I don't need to use profanity. I have a bigger word choice, but it was just a matter of, like, my mom gave me that space to let me know how I feel, to give me the space to explain how I feel. And as a mother, she was so protective. And so when I would tell her stuff, I watched my mom beat up people in front of me because someone was bothering me. But my mom showed me a few things. I don't condone fighting and all that now. But the thing that I will say is that my mother gave me the space to express how I feel when something was hurting, right? I didn't have to, like, hold that in. Now, there were some things that I used my journal to write in to express how I feel, and that was helpful. But I knew that my mom, that if I say, hey, this hurts, she wanted to figure out a way to get me to talk about it. And it makes me think, as like people that I've encountered, did they have that space? Did their parents give them that space to really express how they feel? Or did they just hold it back? Growing up, I wasn't as assertive. It wasn't until I got older, and maybe that is the lawyer in me, but I know how to switch it up for my personal relationships. Like, I'm not trying to be a lawyer in my personal relationships. I'm trying to be a lawyer when I have a case, not when I have a good friendship that I'm trying to cultivate. So it just makes me think, like, who taught people how to communicate? Like, who taught you how to communicate? Because sometimes it could be a learned behavior, right? It could be something that you've learned in your household, where if something hurts, you don't talk about it. You just keep it all in and you don't say anything. Or where you're in a household where you were able to really talk about things, even if something pissed you off. And now, as an adult, my conversations with my parents are different. Now I can call them out when they're wrong. And we actually put out fires, and those conversations are needed. And I'm like, hey, I am the child and you are the parent, but I just want to let you know, hey, when you did this is how it made me feel. But I also give them the space to do that as well. But they set the foundation. And even though my mother allowed me to express how I feel, but me being an adult, I had to do the rest of the work. There were other missing tools that I needed to be more effective in the communication. And that's where I'm at now. But the moral of the story is that whenever you are putting out fires, you have to ask yourself, what is the end goal? Are you trying to be right? Maybe you just want to be understood. Or do you want to just, come to a happy medium, right? If your goal is to be right, you got to ask yourself, what do you get out of being right? Because sometimes if your whole purpose is to just be right, you may sabotage a good friendship. You may sabotage a good relationship. If you want to be understood, that's good. But when you want to be understood, what do you want someone to understand about you? Because obviously, if you're putting out fire, there was a miscommunication, or there was a lack thereof, or there could just be a misunderstanding. If you feel like you want to be understood, what do you want this person to understand about you? So moving forward, you don't have the same conversation, right? Or I think these two can go together. If you want to be on the same playing field, what can you guys do to move at the same pace, right? The same pace. What can you guys do to be on the same page? That's what it's all about. That's all I have for today. I hope and pray that if you ever had a situation where you had to put out a fire, what's the end goal, right? It's important to have difficult, uneasy conversations. One of my girlfriends, I had to like say, hey, you know, I saw this message and this is how I received it. And she was like, thank you for telling me that. I can see what you mean by that. And I always tell my friends and my loved ones, like, hey, check me. If I did something wrong, I want you to tell me. I'm not here to be right. I want to be better. That is my goal. I'm not trying to be right. Now, if I take a test, you damn right, I want to be right. If I have a case, I want to be right. I want to be right in like the work that I do, right? But as far as personal relationships, I want to make sure that we both are understanding each other. That's the difference. I'll share this last thing. I remember somebody told me that they did a Google search on me, right? And they were like, yeah, like you're a cool person, but when I research you, like you got all this stuff going on, like you're super smart and X, Y, and Z. And I said, well, when you researched me, you researched Attorney Tillman or Professor Tillman, right? Those are the titles for my profession, right? I'm still a licensed attorney. I'm also a law school professor. Yeah, that's what I do for a living. That's my profession. That's how I get paid. But when you Google search me, you don't know anything about my character. You don't know that I'm kind. You don't know that I like to give back. My purpose in life is to serve and to teach. You don't know that. A Google search is not going to tell you that. You don't know that I am an aunt. I am a godmother. I am a daughter. I am a sister. I am a friend. I'm an active member in church. I facilitate Bible studies. I make a conscious decision to work on myself every single day. I'm always open to learn and always open to grow. You'll never hear me say that's just the way I am. No. Now my hair, I love short hair. I don't see myself growing it out, but hey, I'm not going to say never because you just never know. I may see like a bob cut and I may say, you know what? This is it. I want to do this. You don't know that about my emotional maturity. You don't know anything about that. Google search doesn't show you that. You don't know what I do when no one's watching, right? You don't know that. Your Google search only shows you what I have accomplished. It doesn't speak to my character. And you'll never know that through a Google search. You'll only know that by getting a chance to know me. So, people will always have an opinion about you. Opinions are equivalent to assholes. Everyone has one. And people will experience you. They will have different experiences when it comes to you. Some may be good. Some may be bad. Some may be ugly. And some may be amazing. And all those experiences may be true. Right? Some people may say, yeah, you were horrible to me. That may be true. Some people may say, yeah, you were terrible to me. That may be true. Some people may say, hey, you were great to me. That may be true. Some people may say, you were great to me. That may be true. Some people may say, you're amazing to me. That may be true. However, and I told my brother this the other day, I was like, you got to ask yourself, whose opinion do you value, right? Because when it comes to putting out fires, I will only put out fires to people that I care about. Or people that I want to have a relationship with, people that I really care about. If I don't care about you, you can say that you hate me. I don't care. And it took me a while to get there. Why? Because a lot of times, if you focus on, I had to tell somebody this the other day, I was like, if you focus on people that don't like you, you're really like going down a rabbit hole. You want to focus on the good things, right? Now, sometimes people may have experience with you and it may be, maybe you're having a bad day and that's what they experience. But in order for you to grow, I think that you got to think about the people that are around you. And you have to ask yourself, okay, if I'm putting out fires and if everybody keeps saying the same thing about me, what is it that I need to change within myself? I guarantee you that if someone said, hey, you're nasty when you do X, Y, and Z, and you got to ask yourself, well, maybe I don't like what they said, but is there some truth to that? And if you care about the person, you care about the relationship, you want to ask yourself, what is it that I need to change? Right? Because I think that uneasy conversations and difficult conversations, they will reveal something about yourself. And sometimes what they may reveal may be ugly, right? Or sometimes may be amazing. But the things that are ugly, we all have ugly parts in ourselves. And the things that are ugly, the question becomes, are we willing to really pause, dig deep, and examine and make those changes? We are all works in progress. But we can't be a work in progress if you're not working. Works in progress mean that you are working. But you can't be a work in progress if you don't work. And my prayer to everyone that is listening to this is that I pray that you continuously do the work. Healing is not something that's just like a one-stop thing. It's something that you work on every single day. It is a journey. It's not a destination. My goal is that you just get better at it every day. You become better. You acknowledge your triggers. You acknowledge the things that piss you off. Me, I know that somebody pissed me off. Like, let's say someone calls me right now and piss me off. I would just tell them, hey, I'm going to have to hang up. Right? Because I know me. And I know, like, hey, this ain't something I want to listen to. This not something I want to really deal with right now. But really understanding who you are and knowing, like, hey, these are things I can pinpoint. And I need to work at it. Would it happen overnight? Probably not. Would it happen within a week? No. But I think that when you make change, it has to be repetitive. Like, you got to keep doing it over and over again. That's what I learned about training a dog. I could teach Chloe how to sit. But how do I make sure she knows what that means? Is by repeating it, right? And so if you want to get better at putting out fire, you got to think about, hey, am I saying this with love, right? Am I saying this with care? And you got to think about it, like, every time you have to put out a fire, because you're going to put out more than one fire throughout your life, are you repeating this healthy cycle? Are you putting out with love? Are you putting out with care? Or you just did it one time and just say one time is enough? If not, you didn't learn the lesson. That's all I had. So it is Monday, so I like to shout out to all the dope men out there. You are amazing. You are great. You are phenomenal. And I hope and pray that you are in spaces where you feel safe. I pray that you are in spaces where you feel seen. I pray that you are in spaces where you are heard. But most importantly, I pray that you are in spaces where people are able to correct you. And that goes for women. You can't grow if you can't be corrected. I tell my friends all the time, no, check me. You're not going to hurt my feelings. You're not going to hurt my feelings. Tell me if I did something wrong, I need you to tell me. And so I hope and pray that everyone that's listening to this, that I hope that, everyone talks about this healing journey, but healing also requires taking the necessary steps to be better and being repetitive. You just don't do it one time. You do it every time. It's a continuous thing. And I just hope and pray that you guys all make the decision to heal. I pray that you all make the decision to be better. No one's perfect. No one's perfect at all. And so I just hope and pray that you just make that conscious decision to just be better every single day. But most importantly, when you are going through these changes and you're trying to be better, I really pray that you're in a community that's able to help you get to the next stage in your life, right? Last example, when someone's in rehab, one thing that they tell them when they leave is to have a sponsor. The goal of the sponsor is like a mentor. And the sponsor makes sure that this person is on track. And so when you are in this phase where you're trying to grow and you're trying to be better, you want to make sure you're around people that probably like a little bit more better than you, so they can check you and call you out. But you're in a community where it feels safe. So when you mess up, they're not going to make you feel bad. Just like, hey, big fella, hey girl, I know that you did this. Yeah, you're going to stumble, but let me show you how to be better, right? And so I just hope that you're in communities that that they're going, pretty much they're headed the same way that you're headed, but they can teach you something to make you better. That's all I have, guys. Have a great day. Have a fantastic day. And if you are on YouTube, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's Sakina Tillman Esquire. All these videos that I post on Instagram for Money Morning Chats will also be on YouTube. So thank you, thank you, thank you. God bless. Have a great week on purpose. And to all the men out there, Sunday is Father's Day. So I just want to give you guys an early Father's Day shout out, whether you are a father or a father figure. Thank you so much for standing up for the people in your life that look at you as a dad or call you dad. Take care, guys, and have a great day.